I'm going to show you how to calculate your referral dependency risk and why being 85% referral dependent might feel like success, but it's actually a ticking time bomb for your business. So after working with over 50 founder-led B2B companies, I've identified the 5 hidden costs that referral dependent businesses don't see until it's too late. So I'm going to walk you through some simple assessments to show your actual risk score, what it means for business value, and the exact target number you need to hit to get predictable, scalable, profitable. So let's get into it. So first, let's pull up your referral by source. Look through the last 12 months and calculate a percentage that came from referrals versus other sources. So, the parable is, referral dependency feels like success. Your calendar is full, you're closing deals, revenue is coming in, but underneath it, you're vulnerable in ways you probably can't see. So I'm going to walk you through these 4 zones and you can figure out which place you're in. Starting off on the far right, the red zone here in the 70%, this is like that referral treadmill. This is where most founder-led B2B companies live. And really, I get that you're busy, you're profitable, clients are happy. But here's the problem. You're building a business that only works if your network keeps performing. And, as you know, our networks are unpredictable. And really, you're not alone here. About 70% of B2B companies rely primarily on referrals. And these are most of the companies that partner with us at Colony Spark, actually. We have a lot of experience kind of dealing with them. And the kicker is, about 30% of those companies only even have like a formal referral system. So it just means most are just hoping referrals come. And that's a prayer. So think of this like you're busy, you're profitable, but you're growing until you're not. And when referrals slow down, at some point they will, believe me. You won't see it coming because of your sales cycle length, but more on that in a minute. And we keep on going through this. As you become more mature, growing and building out different systems and channels, you start moving into the orange zone here. This is limited predictability. You starting to lose this forecasting ability. Your pipeline is going to be heavily influenced by factors that you can't really control. It's your network's activity, your client's willingness to refer, and timing. You really just can't predict. And when I would say once you get into this 30 to 50%, you're really in the caution zone. You're in decent shape. You need to keep an eye on this. If any other channels slow down, you can really slide into the orange and red zone real fast. Of course, you want to be in the green zone. You want to have a healthy amount of referrals. That just means you're doing well. Referrals are working, but you've got those other channels that are doing the heavy lifting. And this is where you want to be. So where are you on the spectrum? Just be honest. Do a self-assessment. No one's looking. If you're 70% or higher, stay with me. I'm going to go through the 5 hidden costs that are going to slow you down and exactly why this matters. So more importantly, what to do about it. So let's talk about hidden cost number 1, and that's the forecasting mirage. You can think you can forecast your pipeline, but you can't actually see past 60 to 90 days, and that is a huge problem. So when I ask referral dependent founders, what does your pipeline look 6 months out? They can't answer this. They'll show you deals. I'm in the pipeline right now. They'll be telling me about conversations that they're having, but 6 months out, you get that blank stare. You know what I'm talking about. And here's the problem. 74% of B2B sales take at least 4 months to close. We're working with super long sales cycles. You need to really be building trust and understanding the journey throughout those 4, 6, 9, 15 months. In traditional industries, the sales cycles could be 200 plus days. So if referrals are slow, if they slow down today, when do you feel that pain? It's not today. It's not next month. You feel it next quarter. You feel it in the second half of next year. And that's when the deals really start losing steam. They should be closing, but they aren't there. And because the referrals dried up 6 months before that, and you didn't notice, now you're really in panic mode. So, let's do the math on this real quick. If your sales cycle is 130 days and you're 85% referral dependent, you have about 60 days forecasting visibility. That's it. 2 months. You can't reliably predict what your revenues looks like beyond those 60 days because you don't have any control over it. And then compare that to businesses with predictable channels, systemic LinkedIn outreach. They're doing content marketing. They have the strategic partnerships, building out their different channels that are showing some impact here. They can start forecasting 6, 12 months out because they have control of the volume of the activities that are generating real pipeline. They know if you start doing X, they'll start generating Y. And right now, if you're in this 85% zone, you don't have that luxury. So, a quick example here is we worked with an Acumatica implementation partner a few months back, and they have 4 million in revenue. About 90% came from referrals, 90. And in May of that year, they had their best month ever. They closed 3 deals. Their pipeline looked healthy. The team is celebrating. Everything was looking great going into the fall here, and then in September, only 4 months later, they were having conversations about layoffs. So what happened? And that's the problem. Like, nothing happened. Nothing dramatic, at least. The referrals just slowed down, and the referrals sources got busy with their own stuff, or a couple of best clients who usually made some referrals didn't have anyone to refer that quarter. It's all normal stuff. And because of their 5-month sales cycle, they didn't really feel that impact till September. So by then they were already in famine mode, scrambling to figure out how to generate pipeline, how to pay their team. So now, try running a business now. So try running a business where you can't see past 60 days. You're trying to make those hiring decisions. You're trying to plan for growth, and you're investing in new capabilities. Try sleeping at night when you don't know if next quarter's revenue is going to be there. You might be there right now. That's the forecasting mirage. The second hidden cost is what I would call your ICP ghost. And you never really develop real ideal client profile, like a real ICP, because you're letting your network define your business strategy instead of the other way around. And this is how it usually plays out. Someone in your network refers a manufacturing client, and sounds good. You take it. It's a great project, pays well. 6 months later, someone refers a healthcare client. Then it's a different industry, but it's a warm intro. They've got the budget. You take it. You get the next could be a logistics company. Then a SaaS startup, then a construction firm. You take them all because they're referrals, and referrals are good business, right? Let's fast forward 2 years from now. You've got the clients in 8 different industries. Your website says something generic like, "We help businesses grow," because what else can you say besides just generic slop there? Your case studies are all over the map. When someone's asking, who do you work with, you got to give them like a list instead of a sentence. So here's the problem. Without like a tight ICP, you can't build a marketing system that demonstrates expertise. You just can't do it. You can't create content that proves you understand that specific insight that your ICP is looking for. You can't talk about the transformation that your industry or your ICP is looking at. And believe me, it doesn't just need to be industry focused. You need to tighten up who are your actual best customers, who can you actually deliver a transformation to. You have to position yourself as a specialist, not just another vendor. And in B2B, when you're selling to these traditional industries, buyers don't typically want generalists. They want someone who's solved problems, their exact problem, 50, 60 times, 100 times. And they want a person who knows their specific issues and their goals inside and out. And you can't become known for something specific, at least if you serve whoever gets referred to you. So the most referral dependent businesses, they don't have an ICP problem because they never decided to develop one. They have an ICP problem because their entire business model prevents them from developing one, and they're in reactive mode. Someone refers a client and they evaluate whether it's a good fit based on profitability and the timeline, and they're not really thinking strategically about it. So whether this client helps you build expertise or authority in a specific sector or not, like that. So really that result turns into a couple years later, you can't even articulate your client because you've never really had that luxury of choosing, and your network has really been choosing it for you. So what what the cost comes down to here is when referrals slow you down, you need to generate your own pipeline. You don't know who to target. You don't have the content that speaks to a specific audience. You don't have the case studies that resonate with a particular industry. And now you're starting from scratch. So, your competitors who have begun building these marketing systems years ago aren't. So now you've kind of put yourself super behind the eight ball. You're kind of developing these systems on the fly. You're trying to, throw everything at the wall that sticks because you're now in panic mode. And you don't really have time to test and understand what the offers that you're putting out there, or the channels that you're activating on, the initiatives that you're active in, you're bringing to market, because now you just kind of continue just taking whatever you can get to keep your business alive. So think about it. Do you want to be known as we help businesses grow, or we help the specific food and beverage manufacturers modernize outdated ERP systems? Which one would sound better if you're a food and beverage manufacturer? Now, understanding your referral dependency is step one. But here's what you really need to know. What's costing you? What's this costing you in actual enterprise value? So I've put together a referral dependency calculator. I'll show you three things. One, your forecasting window. So how far out you can reliably predict. Your scaling ceiling. So when referrals maxed out. And your valuation discount. What's this it costs in acquisition value? It takes less than 3 minutes to fill out, and you'll have a specific action plan based on your score. Put the link in the description. Check it out. Okay, the third hidden cost. You're going to hit a hard ceiling, and you won't understand why. So let me show you the pattern here. Here's what I see all the time. The company grows 2 to 4 million. That's great. Then 4 to 6 million. Awesome. Then they're stuck. They plateau at 6 million, maybe get to 7, and then they can't figure out why. And I'll tell you why here. They maxed out on their network capacity to generate qualified referrals. Your network is finite, and the relationships you can only produce so many referrals per year, and you've hit that ceiling. And here's the problem. You can't scale referrals the same way you scale other channels. You can't hire salespeople to do it for you. And what would you even train them on? So hey, you hire a sales rep, like, here's your job, go leverage your relationships you don't have with people you don't know to get referrals from networks you can't access. And by the way, we don't have any documented processes. So this basically just be me. Just take over Bill's job, and you'll build out, find like your new network, and just kind of build out the experience and network I've built. Good luck with that. It doesn't work. So the math, let's just math out the math here on that referral ceiling. And let's say you can personally maintain about 150 solid relationships. And if you can do that, God bless you. So with that number, because then I don't know, that's probably generous, right? So, but let's go with it. You got 150. And let's just say 20% of those people refer you each year. So that's 30 referrals. If your close rate on those is a generous 50%, that's 15 new clients per year from referrals. And if that average deal size is 100K, that's 1.5 million in new revenue from referrals, and nothing to sneeze at, nothing to hate on for that one. Congrats. You just calculated your referral ceiling. And if you're looking to get to 10 million, you got a long ways to go. So here's another piece of data to simmer on a little bit. Only 20% of sales managers believe their deals follow a repeatable process. And because most B2B companies don't have repeatable processes, that number just continues to stay low. They have a loose collection of activities that sometimes work, sometimes don't. And when your primary channel is referrals, you don't really have a repeatable process to optimize to start understanding. You're basically your process is just wait for someone to refer someone to me, and it doesn't systematize, it doesn't scale. You can't hand it off to someone else, so you can't get out of the business and start doing other things that matter for your company. You're stuck in this sales manager role. The only way to scale referrals is really you need to build some formal referral systems, strategic partnerships, partner programs, product-led growth initiatives. But most referral-dependent founders, like they never have built these systems because they are just too busy delivering client work. So you're the sales manager and you're the guy that needs to deliver and execute, because these are your referrals and you need to keep them happy. So the treadmill keeps going. You're running hard, you're making money, but you're staying in the same place revenue wise, and that's the scaling ceiling. A great book to read I would recommend is called The Referral Engine by John Jansk, if I'm pronouncing that right. Some really good techniques in there to help really get the most out of your referrals. The fourth hidden cost is you, the founder. You become that permanent bottleneck. We just talked a little bit about it. You're the bottleneck for all revenue generation, and that's just a problem for a ton of reasons here. And when your revenue depends on your network, your personal reputation, the relationships, the business can't grow beyond you. And I see this almost daily. A founder wants to scale. He decides he needs a VP of sales, and it's a great idea in theory because the VP, like what's he or she actually going to do? They probably don't have like 20 years of relationships in the industry. They don't have that referral network that their founder has spent 2 decades building, and they can't generate the pipeline in the way that a founder does because their pipeline comes from the people that they know. It's not a repeatable process. So one or two things happen here, and either that VP fails and leaves, before the year is out, and it becomes a real expensive or they become a real expensive customer success manager, who close the deals that you're sourcing. So again, you're out there finding those opportunities, and that neither scenario helps scale your business. And this founder dependency, this creates burnout. You might be there right now. That data shows that 63% of business owners report experiencing burnout. And you know what that top trigger is? Guess. It's financial stress from unpredictable revenue. So you can see the connection here. You can't take a vacation without worrying about pipeline. You can't hang out on the beach or hang out with your kids. You can't take a step back from sales, and you are that sales engine. And it gets exhausting. And now let me connect this to something that you probably already know. And this is the customer concentration risk. So that having one client represent 30% of your revenue, that's a red flag for buyers, right? If you ever want to sell your business, and an investor or someone looking to acquire that will look at that and discount your valuation because of your concentration risk. If that one client leaves, your revenue is going to crater. And so think of it like this, being 85% the referral dependent is the exact same thing. Instead of just customer concentration, it's channel concentration, and buyers are going to discount that too. So because what they're really buying at the end of the day is a business that stops working the day you stop working. That's not a business. That's just a high paying job, and high paying jobs don't require or demand enterprise value. And by the way, if your top client makes up 20% of your revenue, which I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this video, that's speaking to them, you're already familiar with this risk, and the feeling of dependency, the vulnerability, the referral dependent risk. It's the same thing. It's just in different form. And fifth, the final cost that hurts the most is pure opportunity cost. While you're busy being referred, referable, and delivering great work, you're not building systems that would make your business predictable and scalable. Think about what's not getting built while you're on this referral treadmill. You're not documenting your processes because there's no process besides wait for referrals. You're not creating any content that demonstrates expertise because you're too busy delivering client work, and you don't have a clear ICP to create content for anyway. You're not building the frameworks and diagnostic tools that position you as an obvious choice in your market, the ones that really add value, because you're in reactive mode. You're not strategic. You're not developing marketing systems around the tight ICP because you haven't had the luxury of choosing who they are. And every quarter that goes by, you're leaving money on the table. And here's what really hurts is that business valuation. So let's talk numbers. A business with predictable revenue and diversified channels, systemic outreach, content, partnerships, a business that business may sell for 4 to 6 times EBITDA in the industry. And referral dependent business, you can't find, if you can find a buyer, you're looking at 2 to 3 times EBITDA. Many struggle to even find a buyer at all because of the founder dependency that we just talked about. So here we go. So here's some actual numbers. A business with predictable revenue, let's do the math. If your EBITDA is 500,000, say, a referral dependent valuation of 500K times 2.5 equals 1.5 million. Diversified channel valuation, 500K times 5, 2.5 million. So that's $1.5 million difference you're leaving on the table. That's the opportunity cost of staying on the referral treadmill. And forget about the exit for a second. A lot of founders aren't planning to sell anytime soon. So let's talk about the quality of life and strategic optionality that you have. Think about what you can do. If you could forecast 12 months out instead of just 60 days, you can hire strategically instead of reactively. You'd know the revenue is coming, so you can bring on that senior developer or the ops person that you've been putting off. You can invest in R&D. You can build that new service line. You can develop a product you've been thinking about, and you can expand to new markets. Because now you'll have the confidence that your existing markets would continue performing. You can take a real vacation. You can go with your kids. You can go out take that long, European vacation you were looking at. You're not the one where you're checking your email and every 2 hours worried about pipeline, like an actual vacation. And that's what you're trading for, the comfort of referrals, and that's the true opportunity cost. So what do you do if you're sitting on 85% referrals right now? Let's go through the roadmap that you can start implementing today. And I would say first, don't let this video panic you. You don't need to try everything at once. That's a complete recipe for failure. The goal, the ultimate goal is not to eliminate referrals. Referrals are great. They should be the foundation. They're the best leads you're ever going to get. 50% close rate or more. They already have high trust. They're pre-sold. They're usually a good fit. And the goal is to get to 50-50 over the next 18 to 24 months. 50% referrals, they'll like 50% from predictable channels that you control. And that might not sound too ambitious, but it changes everything. Believe me. Let me show you how to get there. Here's the sequence. Don't skip steps. Let's take step by step here. First step, you have to define your ICP. Take 30 days and define your ideal client, your ideal customer profile. Really define this, not just think about it. And so you want to do a couple things. I would pull up your last 20 clients, write them down, ask yourself which ones were the most profitable, which ones were the easiest to work with, which are the best fit for your team's capabilities. And then, out of those 5, that's your starting point, and look for the pattern. What industry are they in? What size company? What problem were they solving? Who is the decision maker? Who is that buying committee? What's their idea of transformation? Where are they trying to go? And you'll start understanding these patterns. So, it's not professional services companies or manufacturers or NetSuite partners or mid-market food and beverage companies. It's mid-market food and beverage companies with outdated ERP systems. It's companies between a certain, 10 and 50 million that have specific challenges. So you can probably write this down. I would just write it in 2 sentences. And then over the next, after the 30 days, take the next 3 months, take that next quarter and build a solid content foundation. Create content that proves you understand your ICP better than anyone else in the market. You can do a ton of research using Reddit, Perplexity, other tools that really deep research. You start asking your customers a lot of just deep diving with them and recording their calls, understanding the information you need to start sharing with your ICP, and you should be starting to share it better than anyone else. Reality videos that show how their world works. Frameworks, diagnostic tools that address their specific problems. Things like this video I'm doing right here. Nothing, doesn't need to be too elaborate. Doesn't need to be super overproduced. You need to just start talking and sharing this information You need to start creating some case studies that speak directly to the situation. And this isn't generic business advice. This needs to be specific tactical intelligence for your ICP that makes them think like, okay, like how does this person know exactly what my business looks like? And you don't need a content team here. And with AI and a lot of what the tools you have in your toolkit today, you don't need the content team. You just need to make sure like you create content that demonstrates expertise that cannot be faked. And that doesn't mean using ChatGPT to write your posts or to write your blogs or anything like that. That means using real knowledge that only you have. Because right now today, you can go on ChatGPT and type in different problems and you'll get the generic answers. But you only have the stories that you have. You are the one that can actually share those stories and tell the right way. You don't need to post it every day. You need to just be consistent. And over this next 6 months, after this, predict that one predictable channel and then systematize it. So it could be cold email. It could be strategic partnerships. It could be thought leadership content on LinkedIn. Don't pick one. Don't pick all three of those. Pick just one. Pick one. Pick one. Build a system around it. Determine the process. Test it. Refine it. Measure what's working here. And set yourself a goal. So 10 qualified conversations per month that don't come referrals. That's it. 10 conversations. What is going to be that one channel that you can go balls to the wall, take it to the next level and get those conversations started? And that may not seem like much to you. Say you're closing deals at 30 to 40%. That could be 3 to 4 new clients per month from a source that now you control. Do the math. What does that change your referral dependency over the next 6 months? And then while you're doing this, I want you to start formalizing your referral system. Stop hoping for those referrals. Start engineering it. Quarterly check-ins with your top clients. Not sales calls, not just genuine, how are things going? What can we improve? These are the conversations that generate referrals, right? So you can build a strategic partner program. Identify 5 to 10 non-competing firms that serve your ICP. You can build ideal relationships here. You can create referral incentives between you all. You all probably have something to give. And then you got to make it easy to refer you. Give your clients and partners that language, the real examples, the materials that make referrals effortless. This is ongoing work. You always got to keep testing, understanding. But it's a difference between hoping for referrals and then generating them systemically. And now here's my promise. When you hit 50-50, you will, if you follow the sequence that I just laid out. Here's what's going to change for you. You can forecast 6 months out, maybe even more, because you can control half your pipeline. You can hire salespeople and give them actual repeatable processes, not leverage your network, leverage the founder network, a real process that they can execute. You can build a marketing system around your ICP because you finally, you have one. You can scale past your network ceiling because you're not dependent on it anymore. And your business is going to become truly valuable, both in terms of enterprise value and if you want to sell it, and in terms of quality of life right now. So look, if you're 85% right now, like you're not alone. Like I said, there's millions of you. Most founder-led B2B companies are in the same spot. So you're not stuck. I wouldn't take away you're stuck here. It's fixable. It takes time, 18 to 24 months to really see a shift in this mix, but it's doable. A lot of founders that I have worked with, many of them don't want to go that 18 to 24 months. Many are looking for the quick fix. So you actually if you can give it the time and the dedication, you can really start leveling up. And really, like, what's the alternative? Like staying on this referral treadmill, it's not sustainable. And I say start with step 1, do it, find your ICP, do it this week. Everything's going to build from there. Now get to work.